You are not watching this by accident. You are lying there, phone in hand, scrolling through nothing. And deep down, something in you knows you are wasting time. But you keep scrolling anyway. Because stopping means facing something you are not ready to face. There is a man in anime history who never hid from anything. He did not scroll to escape. He did not wait for someone to believe in him. He carved his existence into the world with his bare hands. His name is Toji Fushiguro. And before you dismiss him as just an anime villain, listen carefully. Because Toji's story is not about evil. It is about what happens when the world tells you that you are nothing. And you decide to become everything anyway. Toji Fushiguro was born into the Zenin clan. In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, cursed energy is power. It is status, legacy, identity, and worth. And Toji had none of it. Zero cursed energy. In a family built entirely on sorcery, he was considered a defect. Imagine being born into a world that grades your worth the moment you arrive, and failing that grade before you could even walk. The Zenin clan did not see a child when they looked at Toji. They saw an embarrassment. They saw a mistake that needed to be erased from the bloodline. So he left. He walked away from the only family he had ever known. Not because he was weak, but because he refused to stay somewhere that treated him like garbage. That took more strength than any curse technique ever could. But leaving does not mean healing. Leaving just means you are carrying your wounds somewhere new. And Toji carried his wounds into the darkest corners of the world. He became a mercenary, a hitman for hire, a man who sold his body and his blade because that was the only currency he had left. Think about that for a moment. A man told he had nothing, who turned that nothing into something terrifying. Not through magic, not through shortcuts, through obsession, discipline, and the refusal to accept the ceiling they put on him. His body became the weapon. He trained until his physical abilities transcended what any sorcerer thought possible. He sharpened himself so precisely that the world's greatest sorcerers feared him. Not a single drop of cursed energy, just will, muscle, and a mind that refused to break. Does that sound familiar to you? Do you feel like the world gave everyone else a head start and you started at zero? Do you feel like the people around you were born with something you were not? Maybe talent, maybe money, maybe just the right last name. Toji had none of it, and he became the most dangerous human being in his entire world. But success does not wash away the scars, does it? Even as he rose, something inside him stayed broken. The rejection from the Zenin clan never left. It lived inside him like a parasite, feeding on every quiet moment, whispering that he still was not enough. He abandoned his son. He gave Megami to the Zenin clan, the very people who destroyed him. Not out of cruelty, out of a belief so deep it was almost invisible. The belief that he had nothing worthy to pass on. That is the real wound of Toji Fushiguro. Not the fights, not the enemies. The belief that he was not worth loving. And that belief almost consumed everything. But then came the fight that changed history. Toji versus Goyo Satoru. The strongest against the man who had nothing. And Toji won the first round. He did not just win. He broke the man who would become the strongest sorcerer in history. He pushed Gojo to a place so dark that it forced him to evolve or die. Toji Fushiguro, a man with zero cursed energy, nearly ended the future of Jujutsu society. Let that sink in. The system that rejected him. The world that said he was born wrong. He walked back into that world and nearly shattered it. Not because he had power. Because he refused to believe their definition of power. He rewrote what it meant to be dangerous. He rewrote what it meant to be capable. He rewrote the rules entirely. And in his final moments, something remarkable happened. When he faced Megumi and realized who the boy was, something cracked open inside him. He asked only one thing. He asked what his son's name was. Not for forgiveness, not for redemption, just the name. Because even the hardest men have one thing that can bring them to their knees. Now stop. Stop and look at your own life right now. You are scrolling because something in your life feels like the Zenin clan. Something or someone told you that you were not enough. Maybe it was a parent. Maybe it was a school. Maybe it was the voice inside your own head. And instead of fighting it, you started numbing it. One video became 10. 10 became an hour. An hour became your entire evening. And now you wake up, and the first thing you reach for is the phone. Not because you are lazy, because you are in pain, and the scroll makes the pain quiet for exactly 3 seconds. But Toji never got to scroll. Toji never got a distraction from the rejection. He had to sit inside it. He had to breathe it and train through it, and build through it. And that pain became the engine. The very thing meant to destroy him became the fuel. So ask yourself honestly, what would happen if you stopped running from the discomfort? What would happen if you sat with it for just 1 hour tonight, instead of scrolling? What would happen if you trained the way Toji trained? Not when it felt good, but especially when it hurt. The answer is terrifying because you already know it. You would become someone unrecognizable. You would become someone they could not ignore. You would become dangerous. Not dangerous with power you were born with. Dangerous with power you built from the ground up with nothing. Toji looked at the strongest sorcerers in history and did not blink. He looked at a world that screamed he was broken and said, "Watch me." He proved that the absence of a gift is not the absence of greatness. He proved that the body forged in silence beats the talent raised in comfort. Every morning you choose the phone over the work, someone else is becoming Toji. Every night you delay the thing you know you should be doing. The gap grows. And the worst part is not that others are pulling ahead. The worst part is that you are betraying the version of yourself who still believes. That version is still in there. Quiet, but alive. Waiting for you to stop scrolling and start showing up. Toji did not need the world's permission to be great. He did not need cursed energy. He did not need their name, their approval, or their legacy. He needed only himself. And that is the only thing you have ever needed too. Not the perfect moment. Not the right conditions. Not someone to finally believe in you. Just you, deciding that tonight is the last night you disappear into the scroll. Put the phone down. Not forever. Just long enough to do one thing that matters. One push. One page. One step toward the person you talk about becoming at 3 a.m. when no one is watching. Toji Fushiguro had 0. You have more than 0. What is your excuse? Drop a comment telling us what you are going to do tonight instead of scrolling.